The big story with Joseph Tamale Mirundi Kont. Attention.
You see, omusajja omubu osoma akatabo ka gundi. No longer it is.
No longer it is.
Omulamuzi yagamba lawyer. Why are you late, counsel? I'm late because I had problems of locomotion. Then the judge is saying, I'm soon getting tired and sick of your problems of locomotion. Gendo kasome bakaita no longer
it is. Nakasoma longer it is.
Waliwo omwana yatuka kusomera nga buyise. Omusomesa namubuuza, why are you late? I was walking behind a slow dog. I was walking behind a slow dog. Omwana bali bamaze omubulya ku ssomero nti embwa eruma. Kakati omwana yali tayinza kuyisa mbwa. That's your problem of locomotion. Nimuwanga wasobwa nnyo. Tewasoma political science. Tewasoma international relations. All of these things you are talking about East Africa. You see, you are not. Why? Africans trying groups at independence.
Yes.
There are those who believed that like in Nkrumah, that we would have a continental government. Then by the time Museveni came to power, Gaddafi had the same mentality.
Dream. Thought about and advanced it. He greatly advanced it.
But Museveni was insisting, why don't you have regional bodies, ECOWAS, SADC, East African Community, Maghreb? Before you talk about the continental issue, why don't you have
regional one?
When you are reviving the East African Community, first study why it collapsed. I don't think that a serious study has been done. Why did it collapse?
The first one?
Yes, the East African Community, East African Airways, East African Railways, and as usual, Uganda is a loser. Anti-faith. Dar es Salaam was for social sciences. Yes. Because of all the East African leaders, Nyerere was a liberal.
True.
Kenya was for engineers. Uganda was for doctors. Njagala okubuulira ti okuveemula gwe baali basazeewo okuyita awo nga waliwo ttano gye muyitamu ne mugenda emulago. Twalina stamps ekyo ekizimbe ekiriko prime minister bayavaayo kati ku Lule, Yusuf Lule Road.
Yes.
When we sat down, the last minister of regional cooperation as the East African Community was lined up was Yoweri Museveni. Read his book. Akubuulire.
So, Taiza Kwanga yasembayo n'abanga tamanyi biriyo Uganda will lose. You know, the man there has it all to make sure we benefit.
Let me tell you. What caused the collapse of the East African Community? The earlier one.
Egoism.
Not egoism. Nyerere could not sit. Yes, Nyerere could not sit with Idi Amin.
Yes, it was that
supremacy was an East African Community in Tanzania, and the Chibedi foreign minister went in the relevant party. The seats reserved for Uganda were taken by Obote, and when the East African Community collapsed, there was a dance. And the Charles Njonjo danced, costed the party for the collapse of the East African Community. And remember, when you divorce a husband or a wife, to come back you must know, has he abandoned or has she abandoned?
The first cause of our separation.
Yes.
What caused the trouble the other time round? Is it abandoned?
Two.
At the Chiro.
The Germans, because of federalism, wanted to finance a Sami AYAMI. Do you know AYAMI? It's a generous organization that was funded by the Germans.
Yes.
But when the Germans... I
actually got training from it in its latest hours.
AYAMI. Because the Germans wanted to move together. When you look at such entities, when you read my book, how I have discussed this as a theory of whether it is economy, this one, whether it is
which we shall handle later,
whether it is economy or politics, I'm a discussant.
The big story, Joseph Tamale Mirundi, East African community tufuna muchi onagatukola loss.
It is abaganda baganti obwayise tebuyoleka bwoyolezetamu ettaka. I've told you that look what the argument was continental, like Gaddafi they wanted. Era Gaddafi yali agala kutta Museveni, Zenawi, Nembeki. Yes. Me, I admire Museveni is a living saint. Because I knew that Gaddafi wanted to eliminate Museveni. But when Gaddafi was facing a challenge...
We thought they were very good friends.
Not at all. Nakugamba, the Gaddafi awamiri yachambadde $1 million najimu kubanga andapo. Amiri yakubacha Gaddafi $1 million.
$1 million?
Why was Gaddafi interested in kumukazi w'ettoro? Mwani muroza nti agala mukazi. The more beautiful Arabs and the Libyans
than that Mutoro woman.
What about Kazi were converting it to Islam? This way Gaddafi's schemes. I knew. I told you that one time I was sleeping in my room in Libya. A person came, nga neighbor anga atudde wali, omuvuka wali. Nejje nankonkono omuwala mu Libya. Can you help me to carry my luggage? I said no, I cannot help you. Bankuba amayinja. Nali ndowooza nti mwenzi. Omuyivu wabanga oyagala okunywa omwenge Libya 160 miles in the international waters waliyo ekimeeri. Omuvuka gwe bayita bakoba ogumanyi. Yagenda ne ssente za foreign affairs emitwalo egi. Bamukuba ne bazimujjako. Bakoba bamukuba ne bazimujjako. Twagenda ffenna nga nze siina yadde 10. Nze nali maze okukistudinga ti ekyo ekimeeri onywayo omwenge naye amaato akakutwala takakomyawo. Waliyo Italian prostitutes. I'm telling you, Gaddafi wanted to become neyefuula kabaka. And
he thought you could only become
African Union. He believed in a whole continent like in Nkrumah, which cannot be realized. Museveni believes in regional. If you want to solve an African problem, regional. That's why Museveni.
Although the regional blocks could later confederate into the continental
before
thing.
Congo became a member, he was using the Great Lakes region.
The IGAD.
IGAD yeri. They were using the Great Lake region. Before these people became members of this African integration, of this African Federation. Kakati, I'm telling you, as an expert who did international relations, there must be a founding father. Anything must have a founding father. Anything must have how did the European Union start? European Union started by 2 countries, Germany and France. Who directed them to start the European Union? The Americans. Why? The Americans believed that Stalin was going to sweep the whole of Western Europe. And the largest communist party in Western Europe was in Italy.
Tetusobola now that tubitegeera muli
anti mukitegeere mutuyita nga mubikola. You think we are fools? You have something to learn. Omusajja yagenda mu ggulu Katonda n'amuteeka mu muliro n'amugamba nziraayo njigirize baganda bange n'abaganda nti waliwo abababuulira. You have examples of ECOWAS, SADC and East African integration. In SADC, South Africa is a power. In ECOWAS, Nigeria was a power until Boko Haram. Now, who is a power? Chad. Mubuli family muyina okubeeramu n'abanyarwanda abajjanga wano mu Buganda balina kalimanzira
dominant force in East Africa.
Anti taliimu.
No, how can we become one?
Munonna mufaanagana. There is no dominant factor apart from Museveni chiposhinga. How much money has he put there? Nti ababaka ba East Africa Legislative Assembly batukana okuboda sente. Who is financing it? The Africans, the East African countries, saw it as an extension of their civil service. East Africa. Because you don't know, how do you create a federation? A federation is created when the existing states realize that they are not politically or economically viable. Federalism means the federal government in Berlin, the federal government at Ottawa, the federal government at Washington.
Can't Tanzania occupy that? Is Tanzania not the dominant?
Tanzania is more interested in SADC.
Oh.
Where you are putting your headquarters, the federal government in Arusha, the excitement that is here is not the excitement in Tanzania. Why? When you go to Tanzania, they run the question. Mwabarwani etakaria mwe mufuke ba citizens ba East Africa mngeni mwambe takaria Tanzania. That's why Tanzania is moving cautiously with you. Ask me who did the international relations. 2, you see, you must have benchmarks. For the European Union that started backed by the United States to stop struggling to sweep the whole of Western Europe, these 2 countries set up benchmarks. You must be democratic. That's why Portugal and Spain, that were imperial powers, were bypassed by the Industrial Revolution and they become backward states. By 78, when Muhozi was born, the demo was born, a government in Portugal was toppled. And Museveni was excited. Read his book. How long did it take the Spanish and the Portuguese to join the European Union? And it's a union. It's not a federation. Provided I was sent a euro. Britain refused it. Denmark refused it. Norway refused it. A monetary union is not easy.
But I think Uganda Chobatukola, one of the things we are doing as East Africans, single currency.
Single currency. I've written it in my book. They don't understand this. Once you create a monetary union, you create a customs union, what does it mean? It has now created a competition within these countries, member countries. If I can start a factory in Tanzania, which is peaceful, kubanga fetutura, abasajja batubuuza. If I have $1 million, where do I invest it? I will tell you, Tanzania is stable, has changed the leadership. How many times? Kenya is stable, it has changed the leadership. The capitalistic Kenyans are not the Ugandan mafias who steal everything. I can Rwanda. Okay, Rwanda is a dictatorship, as you may think. It has not changed the leadership. It is a minority over a majority. Tukuburia for experts, you come to me and tell you, where do you put your money? In East Africa.
I thought Uganda is the most stable and the same.
Uganda Investment Authority, etudde kutakali abantu. Museveni created 20 investment parks where you could go no ngetaka mu mawanga agamu osanga n'ebizimbe babizimbye. Ne batekayo infrastructure, ne bateka muki. Eri abantu bali lwakakamba. How many times have you changed the leadership of Uganda Investment Authority? Another testimony about Uganda Investment Authority, you go to Mukono. The Namamve Industrial Park, etakabali tudeko, batunda tunde, more expensive than you go to Chibule's constituency. The Chinese are buying land from private people rather than getting access to Namanveran. Rwakakamba, never go out to Magichigozi, never go out home, never go home, a Takabaga disunda. They don't understand the Museveni's concept. You can call it land bonanza money that they never did the political economy. East African Federation is doomed.
Tolina kyolaba muwali because I'm waiting to see kikyolaba mu kyonna tolaba mu kintu kyonna
kyaliwo ne kigwa
iyala tesobola gifunamu ene
kyaliwo ne kigwa kakati bwe kiba kyagwa kye kyakisuula naye cannot work in Museveni's government again to go back to a marriage divorce he must have abandoned his former habits which force you out. Museveni abajoza abali mu government abatunya ku mitwe abatunyalako ne bampa sente zange ne bazikwata ate ndikukolera ddi. I cannot come back. You throw me on kasasiro kujirikiti ko basula embwa amanya ejirikiti type program zange ne bazijjako kati mbagala ko kiyizo benyondo mpita meeting entulike. So you must review.
You have just said that you are a rich man.
I'm telling you must review. Kakati kankubuulire mwogera nti Ebola ali mu Uganda naye nga beerabidde buno obukozi bunnambi buno butambuza endwadde bwekabeera ne katwangire. Why is Uganda suffering for diseases that are not affecting East Africa? Ne boogera Ebola ensalo ne bagiggala e Busia buli omu naggala ensalo naye nga bakatumye kaggala ensalo koogera Ebola ensalo eggalibwewo but supermarkets zaabwe zikole. Where do you find such a people? Wokalabira wonna. Kakati what does it mean? When you declare Ebola in Uganda, then the East African countries will block you. Tibakiriza kugujja.
Of course totambuza bulwadde.
Rwanda yawera amata gaffe galimu omuwogo. Kenya newera amagi gaffe newera ne kasooli. But the players to undermine themselves. Waliwo omusajja omugagga ennyo bamubba golodi yamusemeratingira Ntebe. We have this the best smelting plant in Entebbe eya golodi. That's why golodi azewa yamutuuse Nairobi nga mufu. Why are Sudanese we are accommodated here are killing you in Southern Sudan when they are not killing Congolese and Kenyans? Busuma bwamwe. You are not prepared. Muri babbi muri abasuma byamwe byonna byabuze byamwe byonna byabufere and you are the driving force. The only thing
but I think we have helped stabilize Southern Sudan
and chenkubolira
stabilize Somalia.
Ekyo kiyamba mmwe but
would actually be the leader.
But when you look at the European Union, they set benchmarks. You must be democratic. Because they are universal benchmarks of democracy. In East Africa, you cannot have a benchmark of democracy. 2, surrendering, if you want to form a federation. Federalism means that the existing countries or states or regions have found out they're not economically and politically viable. You surrender some of your sovereignty to create a bigger unity. So the federal government in Arusha, but the Tanzanians are not interested, are not keen as Ugandans because of education, the level of education and land. Mugenda kuddayo mubbe ettaka mubuntu guleyo abantu.
Museveni alowooza nti population y'Abaluganda eri miliyoni 4 bwe tugattako Abakongo ne banna Kenya ne bwe tuba tubadde tutunda kyetutunda kyonna kiba kifunya abaguzi. The market
that one I've addressed it
is the market.
I've addressed it in Salary theory.
Yes, but you must first in Museveni's theory. The market. Let
me tell you, what matters is not the population. What matters, what is the demand? Demand and effective demand. Effective demand means demand backed by money. What do you get from Congo apart from getting refugees there? Can you sell beef to a Congolese who can hunt his monkeys? Omukongo yerira nkimanyi omutwalira beef we shall sell beef to Congo. The people you want to sell beef to have already used to Sinairo legs ez'Abafalansa amanye by'Ababirigi eby'Omutabirya. You take all the efforts to go to Congo. When you combine the whole of East Africa, the numbers, issue is not in numbers. If harm one woman over Sajja Balaba, you are competing with the Sajja Balaba and harm all the rich people we have here. Can 100 people threaten him, the poor people?
Not at all.
Yes. What do you get?
It is about their purchase capacity.
Have you looked at the transport in Congo? These are rainforests. Omusajja yerire enkimaye gwe wali ogenze ke Congo n'emmese bazikola ku musito. Emmese bagirya ne bagirira ku bikola bya lumonde n'akawunga kati gwe twalayo ennyamayo. President Museveni.
Our maize is wanted in Kenya.
President Museveni.
But quality ya tusi quality ya.
President Museveni yali mukwano nnyo gwa Bozaze owa Central African Republic yamutondera ente ne zifo. They had to take a gardeners okuzimbira Bozaze a farm erimu omudde ente gwe zisobola okulya at what cost.
So you are saying that Uganda is a loser at the East African community?
Yes. And you see, when you look at Kenya.
But we are selling a lot in Southern
And we
Sudan.
have a problem. The problem we have, the British, Abangis above the European Union, they are dealing with each country on bilateral, not European Union.
I want to give you facts. Uganda's exports to DRC, Lero, is 338 million US dollars.
Tell me what they are selling there. Kuchi, anti binyanja mubikwata. The Congolese want younger fish. If that money is reflected and is true, then Wakataka will be the ambassador of Uganda in the Congo. The man who is an expert on selling younger fish. Wakataka. Appointed Wakataka. Because you see, when I look at these people, why do you fight younger fish? Amakalabi. The Congolese want younger fish.
Yes, they
because River Congo, temuli mucha nyanja, tilapia, naba neri wagulu, nebogenda mu Southern Sudan, nogende Juba, tilapia teriyo, obunyenja bulinga misota. Kati faba China, babbi ensonzi ne bazimala wano. Why? Kile fish, eyamba magumba g'abaana. Bali mu Luwera bazitutte banangalia. Uganda Revenue Authority enangalia. Security enangalia. Abachina bali baze mu vale ensonzi bazimazeemu. Why do you think that the Chinese are in valleys? Because of the kile fish. Mubasoka mwezesa muti. Ensonzi. Ensonzi zina kile. Kile helps the bones of a baby. That's why in Uganda, a Muganda woman ali pregnant ali ebumba.
Ebumba, yes. Baligaya nye bumba.
2. A Muganda woman kanchibabulize mujja kuddamu kulya mumbwa. Because African medicine is unhygienic. Embwa wezaalidde. Embwa tezaala. Embwa ebwagula. Tewulabanga yombwa yali efudde ng'ezaala wali egirabyeko ente efe ng'ezaala naye embwa tefanga ezaala yo tezaala ebwagula embwa ezaala obwana 10 ate tefa ani yali alabye embwa efudde ng'ezaala kati Abaganda ogwo omusayi gw'embwa gwerekawo ng'ezadde baguyoolawo ne bagukolamu emmumbu kakati emmumbu eyeyamba abakazi okuzaala. I'm telling you.
Sure.
Yes. But does
that mean that human beings and
that's why you see African medicine is dirty. Do you know how we treat a person? Why can't compose? Omuntu mu Buganda akubidwa eddagala etumuwa tugenda mu toyi ne tujjayo bbiri tumusiiga I'm telling you. Akubiddwa laddu tumusiiga B.
As a medicine?
Yes. Omuntu akubiddwa laddu Thunderbolt. Ffe mu Baganda tugenda mu tuyi ne tusenayo ne tumuyiira. Kyova olaba toyinza kudya eddagala lya Africa n'oliteeka ku scientific research mu ssenero ng'olijjawa.
Naye bikola.
Bikola. You ask ere Muganda. Once you are subjected to Thunderbolt.
Yes.
Omuntu akubiddwa laddu Abaganda bamujjanjaba bati. B. We smear you. If you don't know, ask these Baganda people. The African medicine cannot be tested clinically.
No, it cannot pass.
Ask Nkubulira is an hygienic.
Because it's unprocessed. Yes. I know that the Chinese. The Chinese process maggots into some liquid used in making syrups.
For us, we know. Me can treat a madman. If you take me to Butabika today, you talk about younger number when you're
Tamale.
I'm telling you.
Serious.
Abalalu. Gwegenda obuuza abantu ti mirundi wabeera abalalu bangi bawuganirawo kwata sente nembawo ne bagenda. I know their problem.
Sente?
And if it's not a problem, tuyina amatovu tugayita amatovu tugookya n'ogateeka mu mutwe gw'omulalu emuvu zaabwe kwayatire. Baganda had their tradition, but because the missionaries bayagala batte buli kyaffe kyonna, you look at the element. Kakati today abasajja bangi out of diabetes. Kakati ng'olaba omusajja ng'apiriga lwaki yafuka mu kkubo. A diabetic man abatakyategeera oba agenda kufuka oba nedda tekyalina control. Yes, is diabetic. Naye abasekanso baamukwata is diabetic. Omuntu ali diabetic abatakyasobola controlling musolo gwe, and you take omusajja ng'oyo mu kooti. What do you do to a pregnant woman who delivers in public?
Ati onaba azaala atuwa kirungi oli atuwa musulo.
Nkugambye nti a diabetic man can urinate in his trousers. Abatandise kwambala pampa kati oyambala pampa oyambala pampa. A diabetic man abatakyasobola kutegeera to control unity. Nze nakyewuunyanga omukazi ayimiridde asobola otya controllinga urine kuba goyinza okulowooza nti is hollow ayiika buyisi, but when is young can control urine, and it's not advisable medically okutambula ne urine in your kataago.
Buli lw'owulira nga oyagala.
Yes, release.
Buli lw'owulira nga oyagala jamu.
If you are involved in an accident, kakati tubalaba abasajja abo bannampiru baasi ya Global yasse abantu mu Lwera naye bagimpawundinze. How come that the global company is dominating the transport sector in the buses? Every bus has a route. Naffe mu taxi bayegaza buli kigundi buli kibaati kibeereko n'egyekikola ejjinja ekirala nabakuba naye mbajjawo. Mu Uganda temuli market ya transport. Once you get a new car like the one I have, evaano neyingira Kabale ne Rwanda, emotoka empya ekola gundi evaano ezange tebazibba ojibba gyebendegerana. Naleetako omusajja mumubbi nga bamuyita disco yali abba emotoka mumanyina kati andaba akasajja ke baffe kaŋŋamba nti olwo oluswayiri lwe wammwe si lwa Tanzania. Eyakubye emotoka ali luddawo
ali mu Uganda
nga tazikubira Busiya nezikwatawo nezikatwalira. Yajja naye emotoka mugende mubuuze Kasinje ng'ennyindi enjuki emuli mu nnyindi buli we yagiteeka. Nagula emotoka zange 2 nenda nagireeta. Emotoka zonna eziko Tamale Mirundi si zange, but ndiyinswala
bateekako
simanyire bannannyinizo. Kakati let us go back to more serious issue. Okay. I'm telling you that you are bringing, because the European Union jemwali koleddeko yakola benchmarks of democracy. But what you have done, because you are driven by numbers, Somalia, Southern Sudan, they come with their problems. On the contrary, the European Union decided before you join, you must qualify as a Democrat.
As a Democrat, you must be. You must
but
have
for us,
practices similar.
When you have 100 people, no, the issue is not 100 people. The issue is those who can afford it. The issue is who can afford. Demand. Never going to demand. Effective demand and demand. Those who go to have a
right
where do you begin? We had the East African community that was functioning, created by the British. Today is not easy to revive the East African community. Why? We have existing states and they want to create a federal East Africa, the government at Arusha. And unfortunately, the way we want to report the headquarters, the Tanzanians are not excited because of their level of education, the jobs, and the land. A Tanzanian, what is Tanzania?
Yes, I've been Tanzania.
Buli etakalia with their public. Buli wosanga kerezia ina mailo namba. Nyerere yalibawo. That's why Nyerere is a saint. Ngabawulia mwabako babantu mutaka. Are you going to okubundula ettaka about landless people into Tanzania? What about jobs? Kakati kyenkubuulira. What comes first? Omukazi okudduka obuko nga tonnawasa muwala oba okumusooka omuwasa. You are talking about East African Federation, East African Legislative Assembly. We must create a government in Arusha first. We must surrender some of our sovereign powers to create an entity in Arusha. All these things are bilateral. Nti walake musindika y'ababaka mu East Africa kubanga mukiraba eyagudde wali mu mutwale wano ng'obumulabo bwa ambassador. But what do you see? Nti tell me about a binding thing evudde mu East African Legislative Assembly nga ne sente musobola zisasula. Two, nti mwe mu East Africa mwogera numbers temutaddewo conditionalities, benchmarks like the European Union. Sadaka ne ECOWAS bayina military alliance. You attack me like a NATO. But even there, South Africa, Sadaka, yayina obuzibu. Mugabe nani ne South Africa? Who liberated, was it an egg or chicken? Angola, Musadaka yamanyi nnyo. Eyina amagi. West Africa, ECOWAS, Nigeria, yebadde yina Nigerian general. Mwikowas kati Nigeria yagwa bakola haramu egisudde kati Chad ye yamanyi. There must be a dominant factor. Even when you are studying UN, I did UN, I did international relations, and I specialized in UN. UN will operate on the law of essentiality. Let America violate all of this human rights, what and what. America is not a member of ICC, but enforces ICC. Ekyo badde okimanyi? America si member ya ICC. Bateekawo the International Criminal Court to make UN popular, known to you. Tibakiwa gye tubakola ki? Because those are not your cows. You have committed crimes against humanity that it transcends borders. Two, nitugamba, how do you popularize UN? Previously, UN yali ku peacekeeping kati ekuba combat. The argument was, teri muntu alwanira ggwanga litali lirye, where is UN? But UN wanted to create peacekeepers. This is why the Kenyans are doing in Congo. You don't know it. The Kenyans only took combat in Somalia. Why? Operation Lindanchi in Somalia. It was their own national interest, and the Kenyans had to move in. But when it comes to Congo, and 20 Kenyan soldiers are killed in Congo. Why are our Kenyan soldiers dying in Congo? Are we going to give us the statistics data why you should die in Congo? If the Kenyans are serious in Congo, you would see Kenya Commercial Bank. First, Kenya Commercial Bank is Juba. And most of the Kenya, the SPLO leaders were staying in Kenya. Why? The SPLO headquarters were in Kenya. Mchibaba tirayo, mutunda menvu. You are competing with what the Dinkas can produce. Minister of Foreign Affairs. Who are you? Where did you go to school? Why don't you contact me? Why don't you come to me for advice? Kakati chovolaba. Tinimuna military alliance. You must have a dominant force. The Kenyan army is professional. In Kenya, if you remain on one rank for 3 years, you retire. The Kenyan army does not need you. In Kenya, do you know who is the next army commander? Nti oli ali wa marine, oli yava mu air force, kati yaddako wa infantry. Mu Uganda mu China. Do you know the next army commander? In Kenya, if you go beyond the 56, you cannot become an army commander. That's why Chipande, who went to UN for peaceful operations, bamubuka. That's why Kenya badde mu violence irwaji. General Karanja badde mu Kikuyu. Nga bakimanyi the commander in the chief can renew you. Abali mu line bakole ki? Be bano bengamba. Museveni asigaleko. Do you know ekyaleeta Mutawane Burkina Faso?
Sali musale yabalabudde.
Kyenkubuuza. Omanyi ekyaleeta problem mu Burkina Faso. Kampulowa ngebule emyaka 2 yagamba kankyuse konso. Agasajja galiite nako gafugeko. Ngogamba ki?
Njogera kukyusa.
Nti abaana balinze emmere essaawa 7 ne bagala yakulya ku 9. Essaawa 9 zituuse nga balaba pick up egitwala tebawukya essomero. You people, why don't you allow Museveni to govern comfortably? Ayina emyaka emeka. He has not even entered. That's why I must disciple of Saleh. Let us create a new dimension, a new mindset.
Anti obuzibu bwamwe, you want to create a new mindset with the old. You want to create a new political mindset.
When you see me,
Museveni
nasoma change. I'm a change agent, mass communication, mass communicator, I'm a political scientist. I'm what? When I join Saleh, we must change the mindset. And if you want to change the mindset, you get. Our problem is not the old guards. Kakati ngagobola nti gwe omusajja gwe eyali mu FDC ovuma otyo tafiire. The old guards, yes, the old guards have sustained this institution.
Yali mu FDC
nawe nekusangawo singa tewagisangawo anti singa tewagisangawo singa tewagisangawo yes. Singa botafiire bovuma kati nti old guards you go teyebwa go and read what we call the attack.
But we go ku space
to respect. How did he come into? How did he become? Yaliwa yejira mu kavuyo. Yaliwani.
FDC.
Ngovudde ko mu FDC. Teyebwa yaliwa Kadaga. Ate Museveni yasobola omuyekera asobola okuleka convenience n'agirekawo. This is why me, Mwame Rakeman, I talked to the speaker and I talked to Namuganza.
Era mwenye waliyo?
Bonna njogera nabo bonna mikwano gye.
Waliyo wa Namuganza jize. Wa speaker simanyi waliyo na bana.
Speaker ranga mi. Nituogera is my sister. The speaker is my sister. Gwe otamanyi. Omwana wange yafuna problem.
Kadaga yali sister wo. Soga. No muteso na yali sister wo kati muzali bo.
Omugezi abeera mwenyina wa buli muntu. Omusajja omugezi taba na kikaaki. Alinga malaya. Malaya tayinza kubulya nti ndi omusoga. Bwojja nti okoba ki ayogera lulu. Kubanga oyinza nti mwannyoko. Yaguza buli omu. An intelligent man is like a village wero. Buli omwajja n'aluse nako. Kakati eyo gundi.
Speaker. That's interesting. You met ensisinkano ya Tamale Mirundi ne Anita Among then ensisinkano ya Tamale
ate Amongi namulabye eggulo. Amongi told me when you have a problem come to me nga tannabera nakubeera speaker ninfuna problem on one of my children nga yeetagisa million na operation omukazi we yazimba. Anita gave me 40 million for my son's operation era tumuyita mwana we waka. So when you look at me nagenda nenkuba olukuŋŋaana ewa Namuganza tanapo nga tagifunangako mugikwateko tegikwatako. They are both mine. Abantu bonna abagezi bonna bakolagana nange.
Kati batuuze.
No. Amongi namugamba nti there are times when he ignore and there are times when he should understand provocation. Namuganza is not simple. That's what I back story nangamba Amongi nangamba. But my brother, I've read the story here, attributed it to you. Namugamba abo bagala tutabangula. My position is clear.
Wakyogera.
Yes.
Parliament tayewa ne Anita Among tebajja kusigaza buyinza Namuganza jabba ku. Said it.
Yes. Why? The moment you see somebody ng'akola ekitali kya bulijjo fe mu Baganda omuntu kasajja nakunamira nawe jamu empale nawe omulaga effimbo. That's what Muganda does. Akunamira mukunamira ate bwaba mukazi mu raping. That's Muganda. Omukazi akunamira mu raping. That's Muganda agende nebisirani bye. Kakati when you see Namuganza, look what Namuganza. Namuganza is not a fool. Namuganza si musiru. Namuganza yatandika nga scholarship ya Museveni yagimuwadde. Namuganza was another DC Eruwero. Do you know it?
Yes.
Has grown up where? Namuganza confronted Kadaga. Ne bamutwala mu parliament. Parliamentary committee ya mukolachi. When he confronted the speaker. For Abaganda batugamba. Ti akagga akakuba mujjawo. Bokalaba okakweka. Omwana.
Yes.
Kasi omwana atandika okuvuma abantu abakulu. Avuma bonna. Envuma mukulu tevuma omu. Once you say person.
Nalo lugero lw'abaganda. Envuma mukulu
tevuma
omu.
No. Once you say kid confronting an elder and you say kaliba kasajja, you praise him or her, abajja kuvuma n'abalala. Kakati nemba bulya nemba gamba. When I look at Namuganza, tukugamba mu political science, any noise, any decision, any movement must be purposeful. Mwosoma akatabo The Art of War by Swanzo. Yakawandika emyaka 3 BC before Christ. Nebakakyusa mu Lungereza from Chinese. Abamerika bagamba tebali tukubye Vietnam. Singa twali tukasome. Ne Swanzo akugamba ne boolaba ebinyonyi nga bibuuka ku muti togenda. Birabye gwe bamulala. Swanzo akugamba never respond to artillery fire before abstaining while the enemy is firing at you. Is he trying to assess which weapon will you respond with? Your position where? Sanzu.
I've read the book, The Art of War. The Art of War. Translated for managers. There's The Art of War for managers.
Yes.
It talks about the war, but in terms of business.
You look what? It is not chronological, but it gives you scenarios. Gundi agamba Sanzu. Museveni kayina okusoma. Sanzu. Sanzu yakugamba. There are times when a leader must borrow the heads of his friends. Sanzu yagamba nti nali maze ennaku 6 a week nga sifuna surprise. Tulina amagye gange gali staffed. Naye ne batubuulira nti the enemy is going to attack us. Nempita twice wange ne mubuuza what do we do under this situation? We are going to fight. Sanzu namugamba we are going to fight. Twaisiwe namugamba how can these angry people fight? Tebanalya. And we don't expect a surprise. What do? We should run away. How hungry people run away?
Sanzu tayina maanyi gadduka.
Ata agalwana kamubuza ata agadduka. Gaya agayina. Sanzu manchi yamugamba. lend me your head. Sanzu yagamba twice way. Toyina answer gwe. Lend me your head. Namuga have given it to you. Teyategera kya mugambi. Sanzu najja y'ekitala. Naddira ekitala kye nakiteekako omutwe gwa twice way trusted. Bakuba emundu ku olwo. Bagamba nti olaba akikola ono. There are times when a leader must borrow the heads of his colleagues. Oba bakodomi bamukomero n'omutwalo no esinaterera. There is a problem. There is a situation where a leader must borrow the heads of his relatives. Yes, abantu ne badde ku mirimu ne bakola. If we want peace in this country, Museveni must move against his members of his family. Abakodomi be. Swanzu. This is what I'm telling you. Nti oyo good speaker. Are you not for? Don't you know that you have enemies all along? People are trying to drag the speaker to court over defamation. Ojukira dine liyakwata ngabagala omubba sente. And I advise her. Abo batwala mu court. Defamation case does not depend on this case. Often opondo bamuga nti underwear, which was wrong. Often opondo si underwear.
Footage.
And let me tell you, what defeats these people is that there was a ruling in the supermarket. If you try to cheat, we multiply the price by 10. If it was often opondo, have you seen a receipt bearing often opondo's name? No. Often opondo si underwear. Bali bagala mwanda mayininga kuba they undermine everybody kakati nkugamba
nejo sijja kuchidda
andi nkugamba ti ofonopondo wanted to summon it was advised by the lawyers. If you take him for defamation, we are not dealing with this case. It's a totality nkwambula. Are you defamable before we were thinking members of society? Olirina Yetwonoona kakati gwe tunuulira Namuganza mugezi nnyo ayina abamugoberera. Namuganza yakimanyi aludde mu parliament. If you want to talk about in parliament, you substantiate. Kati Namuganza yamanya. Point of order n'abatalina magezi bonna. Point of order, point of information, point of Namuganza did not talk with these issues in the parliament.
Yaleta kirala.
Yabireetawa outside the parliament. How do you handle an issue spoken out of his parliament? Courts of law was dragging parliament in courts of law.
And the battle there will expose the law.
And how? Let us say there are two cases where parliament has gone to court and has lost. One, vetting in Uganda was reduced by a judge to academic papers. There's vetting.
Not morality.
Not morality.
Not background.
Uganda kutijjo kwata mu government y'amufozi kumubeka bangali. Ruled that only vetting means that academic papers. Tuvule batango doyitayagala mu.
Yet ideally,
vedia sente z'abakapapala. Tuvuli mu kwatu bati tango doyibe sweet.
It would include wakolako wa.
Yes.
A
judge in Uganda reduced the parliamentary appointment committee's role from vetting to only academic papers because the judge knew that people will not go through not the academic papers they did forged, not morality.
Yet the intention of vetting, to vet, the word would mean...
When Kadaga gave money to MPs to fight COVID, they went to court and the judge ruled that the money must be returned. And Kadaga did it. Obliged. What does it mean? It means that the parliament is under the jurisdiction
of the courts.
Eventually, Kataga gave in. Abalamuzi come on national coffers. The judges go to national coffers. Parliament was given powers by the constitutional framers to go to Katinabano Vaina. as a balance. Kavuma yatya, the former deputy chief justice, Alimu Uganda Aviation Authority, which does not have any relationship with legal.
His British experience.
Katuleva akolawa. Oloza oyogundi, owinye dola agenda kolawa. But we had the time when we are importing judges, exporting judges.
Yes, bagaswaga.
Yes. Oyo kanyambe ekyamunyiza. Bamugamba nti sesirize eyagala chief justice. Ne bamuga nasala omusango gw'obusiru. Ne bamukuba. Agenda okutegeera nti ntende yagututte. Sesirize genda obuze ntende.
Egonda ntende.
Yize Musoga.
Very intelligent.
Musota yize Musoga.
Judge.
Omuyi Musoga, Musota. President Museveni bagenda ne bagamba nti bwe bazuula amafuta e Bunyoro. This was my first time to hear abagungu n'abaliisa. Tinyefunza n'abakubemba okwo n'abajjayo nga waliyo oil fields. Naye bagenda mu kkooti ne bawaaba. N'abasajja abaali baketta mbabazi mu Yiso nabo Museveni bwe yabagoba nti bamenye kuwandika reports zaabwe nga bakama bagenda wa Musota n'abali wadinga 70 billion. Minister nazimba amahoteri ge bali mukwata olwale bali muyo baki kyobula batya mukozi. Musota yabawa 70 billion ani yazirya 70 billion. But Museveni yali takimanyi ate ne oyo omusajja Tinkasiimire nga ye chairman wa presidential committee yakola ebintu bibiri. Yagoba bala DC abakolera Museveni balugasa bakintu baseka baje. You see, well educated people bakola nnyo kuba baba bamanyi balabye kunda bakuki. An educated man like me, the one minister, I don't value it. After all, I'm educated. Another man will give me a better position than you. Neona ataso mono. That's why Amin used to recruit cripples in the army. Mulema amala kubama sisi ne kamugwamu. Kakati nkubulira Namuganza.
Wamugambye ki?
Namuganza is dangerous. Namuganza is dangerous to Parliament. Namuganza did not mention these words in the Parliament. She mentioned those words outside the Parliament.
Outside Parliament.
If I'm
on WhatsApp groups.
What I tell among it, start ignoring. What I'm telling you, the Chief Justice, start ignoring issues. There are things that you ignore. If Nabanja anunudde omukazi, what did you want? Nabanja has not raided a prison namugjayo not serving a sentence.
No.
Namuganza has fulfilled your directive. Why do you bother? Why should the Chief Justice bother about Nabanja? Hello, egoism. If you are not comfortable,
no, he
said, as
long as I live, nobody will plan on
and he's suffering from inferior complex.
A short break.
Yes.
Baba TV, the big story, Muganga Muka, Joseph Tamale Mirundi.
Kakati kyenkubuulidde kitegedde.
Kitegedde. Somalija lombalize wagambye Namuganza.
It is not the interest.
Bonna ali gwe walabye nga yasinga okufiirwa. Ani asinga okukosebwa.
Bonna bafiirwa. Why? Namuganza wants to drag a parliament to court. If they are dragged to court, the speaker and the deputy speaker or the aggrieved parties will have to court to accuse Namuganza of defamation. Defamation, I've told you, it does not concentrate on what you are saying. It concentrates on your character. Are you defamable before members of
right thinking
members of society? Kitegeeza, Namuganza's role will be to bring evidence against the speaker and deputy speaker away from where they are commanding. Achije muli amanyeri bajamuga point of order, point of
achije we bamufugira abatuti nabo we bafugirwa
akati Namuganza's ruling egenda kuyamba government never minister. What necessitates a censure motion against a minister, the Constitutional Court would define. Tukera bukeze kumacha nti yatuvumye kubanga ganaga sayininga gano galiga sente. These are idiots. These are idiots. They don't know that they are surrendering their parliamentary powers to courts, and the courts are itching. Everybody is itching. Why? The framers of the Constitution gave a lot of powers and protection to Parliament. Vetting process. Government, we are independent. Sumeya lina mchala mugiso. Nalagira kadaga. Sente bazizai. Nevita tegira. Enkola bizisi jimbi. Tibia tegira. Sikadaga yakubwa. Is Parliament. Kakati, namuganza tasola kuteka yo injunction. Court cannot stop a process of Parliament. But if you are injured, Constitution human rights cases cannot be dismissed on technicalities.
They cannot.
They cannot. To you technicalities. Kakati, the two people learn how I was watching a meeting a Canadian investor abagamba. You have suffocated this money for 10 years. I want to end this battle. Museveni yampa 5 billion nibazibba. Nampe chapa nibachibba. Nampe takolyange rwakakomba nakano kwa rwebamba. Nibaditwala. Uli yabuza Kabushenga. On record. Video njina. Kabushenga. Are you trying to, are you going to invest in a preaching place? No. Preaching a bizibichaliwo. That must be Mirundi. Erichi Mirundi is no monyo alisa sura ogwange nakuwaba wafena mugulu umusango ogwange kumulenzo oyo najja ko program zange najja namuwabire wafene mugulu katonda yali kusala bwe ndifa ndimulinda ne baguwozesa ebyo nabibala kakati nkugamba ne gamba
nani bano bajjja bo bowana
andi nkubuulira
ekyo tebakisobola
kyebaba koze kikoleka era nze nkimanyi nti bakuba hamu bo balowooza nti hamu can tell me to negotiate a deal with them. Let me tell you, you are idiots, and this is how Museveni defeats you. When harm comes up and challenges the Kabaka, is it when you talk about cancelling ekizimbe kino, which one came first? And did you know kyekitegeeza nti nemulago bagenda mutwala yali wa Buganda ne Makere bagenda mutwala yali wa Buganda? Yes, they are opening mba famengo tesogerwako muki baba bajewo. You cannot say that when it means nti hamu mwabali muri bibye. When harm has stood up against you, you are now invoking the land title, which came first. Museveni kyabasingira. Omanyi Museveni bwabasinga. Let me tell you. Naye oba bibeera wa? Oba kubutuko birira ko kyo bibira ko nagisi. Kubaka nkubuulize. Sebaana Kizito bought that land, acquired that plot at Bombo Road. Okuli ekizimbe kyekiwanvu. But in 1983, you read it in my study book, the government of Obote, in its attempt to bring these Indians back, the investors, back on the taker, their leases had not expired. So therefore, from 1973 to 83, Sibiaka Kumi, lease ya liebula y'omwaka ogumu egweko ine emyaka 10. So because I did not fulfill why I got the lease, it was kotu prematurely. Sebaana Kizito yali ali awo nga abayindi bakomyewo, waiving their land title that has been extended to more 10 years. What did Museveni do? Museveni to assure the investors, and Sebaana Kizito was in opposition, but Sebaana Kizito was deputy was Semugerere. Bwebasaba yoba minister, Sebaana tebamuteekamu. Museveni appointed Sebaana Kizito on his own. Why? Sebaana Kizito yali minister mu East African community. And Museveni wanted the East African community. Maybe had consulted him where he moved regional government. 2. Sebana Chisokamuze from Luwero and was an entrepreneur. Museveni sat with the Sebana and the Indians. Said, what are you saying? We want to take over Sebana's building. Why? Because you see our land title, Museveni solved the matter. He gave the Indians another plot and he saved the Sebana's building. Kakati gwe kabaka oyagala otya okuwamba ekizimbe ky'Omuganda kubanga mukutte ettaka ly'omwana mulibbye mubadde mulo nze omwana oyo namugamba nti ogwirize Mengo mu bino ebyanabagereka n'obazimbira ekizimbe Asante yapunda ni mateke ab'Emmengo bw'ogenda bakulowooza nti obeeguya nnyo badinye wange mukbes nalaba wa Buganda Land Board nali mu nte zange nali wakanga nawe ente zange nfuwa emiri yange omenye ente zinyumirwa nnyo taaba nali nfuwa emiri yange yataaba bwenti ente zange nzikumako omalira
kufuwa emiri
ente zange nzifuuyira
emiri
omugaggaze bwenyingira nzigamba omugaggaze tewali kyagala muntu nga nti nina eziri awo ne faamu kati mba ndi awo ndi mu kiwale kyange kasajja ka Buganda Land Board ne kajja kampita mulalo gwe emidi yange kwefunga omulalo yennyini nanyini wana musajja wa Kabaka aliwa nekatunulya bwenti kampita mulalo ate nga Baganda bagandi buli ayita muntu taba mulalo nakatunulira bwenti emidi yange kwerifu ente zange tunyumya nekagamba mulalo gwe konze wanjise bwampa sebo ati musajja wa Kabaka owawa naaliwa nenkatunulya bwenti nekagamba ali munda nenzija kekufiira nekalabanga nze mutano wa Mirundi yennyini saba nsonyiwa senyo okuyita omulalo nti gwe kyoba okola kiri eki fuluma ennyumba yange ate nga bwe kagenda okubuuza nateekako ekufulu katomera geeti emirundi egi bedu kasajja ka Kabaka akemingu nakakooti kaako nenkatunulya bwekakona olugi bwekayita omulaalo kati kamutegedde nzijako enkofiira yange kategedde nti ono emutani wa Mole yennyini nakagulira kagenda okufuluma ng'empale kagipamyemu kagwa ebigonga binaga kafuluma geeti nekagamba okomangawo ab'Emmengo abo bajooga. When you do something good, you see Mengo operates a KNRM. When you do something good to NRM, Asante yapunta ni mateke. When you do things to NRM,
you compare Mengo to NRM.
Yes, Mengo is a KNRM. To when you do them a good thing, they think weguya. Once abenRM bobakolera, they humiliate you. Ne Mengo humiliates you. Nti Mengo believes Mengo like NRM. They believe that working with them is a privilege. Hey,
an opportunity.
Yes.
A golden opportunity. They
are human beings like you, the Ugandans, they are yesterday's paupers. Me, I cannot excite me. Working in the government is a misfortune to me. I will never work in the government again. Bana bala bantu obujozi bwabwe oyina okubeera kwa kinko bw'obeera kwa kinko bw'obeera oyina okubeera ku NBS kuba ye yaabo
nanti hamu yasooka n'agamba tasobola kuvunaana kabaka we
ati kyenkubuulira
n'amala naddebe n'amuvunaana
ati kyenkubuulira tokozesa byombi. There are times abaganda bakugamba mu Kereziya tukugamba amanye ekibagana okufumbiriganwa kyogere kati oba asirikire ddala. If you revive nti ekyapa kya hamu ekyeyo gundi ebaddewo kubanga eno okusinga kabaka omusango nga yamubbye tukiyinvokinga then how are you going to end?
Kino tokidda mu wetonde. You cannot say kabaka
abba nyina okuba oluyi kabaka abba kabaka yokola kubba mwana tukiddamu aye omuganda kiddemu nkukuba oluyi. Safety whatever name you give it. Safety is safety. Okugamba nti nasaze ensawo n'okugamba nti nakusumagizizza noganda kubye ebimu kabaka bba kiddemu oba oli muganda okusinga nze kiddemu. They want to steal. The younger man has stood up. Nemukamba buulire yefu Museveni yabayita ne kabaka nga waali naga nkuddiziza ebyapa naye togoba abantu bange mu ttaka. Ekyo bakyogera Museveni nayita ekyabazinga namuga ekyabazinga nkuddiziza ebyapa byo naye togoba abantu bange mu ttaka. Abantu baani? Abantu baani?
Bafuuse ba
over the two Museveni and kabaka.
I thought abantu babakabaka nnyo okusinga Museveni.
Naye Museveni akugambye nkuddiziza ebyapa ne bakuba mu ngalo naye togoba bantu bange mu ttaka. Kawini byanyima kabagamba ebya Buganda tubizizaawo naye mukoma okunyuma ne bakuba mu ngalo ne bazina abatamanyi bikiinibwa. Abatamanyi bikiinibwa. See, ndi somebody can come to me. Nanga nkuwadde eddagala eryo ne making sure nti mama woli muwa. Boluyi. Do you want my mother more than you? More than me? It's an insinuation. Kakati if Museveni today calls the kabaka and the harm to arbitrate mwagala sentence bawadde kabaka ajja kuvayo n'amakanzu ge ninga bano bagamba nti amwangu de no.
Does Museveni have that time?
Yes, he can.
Reconcile kabaka.
Let me tell you when you read it.
That's even embarrassing.
When you read my book.
Omukopi n'omulanga reconciliation.
When you read my book. What did Museveni do when he came to power in 86? Museveni looked for the entrepreneurs he knew. Kayondo Susop. Yali amunoonya amuwe deal akole engato z'amagye. Museveni donated, gave a grant to Mukwano, $500 million to produce soap. I don't know. The factory of Mukwano is sitting on a sewage. The sewage is center ya Kampala. Sewage is soka. It was the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I will about Mumasoga Gund. Mumasoga, what's the king? It's sewage. You will have a bit of a bow. Waliwo baaferawo era ne bw'obuyitawo bwoti okiwuliranga ekiduduma. Another sewage center eri Mukwano kwatudde factory ya Mukwano. When you are going through Jinja Road you smell the polluted air. But why Museveni gave Mukwano a grant to produce soap? Why? At that time sukali twali tumuyisizaawa. Museveni stood up with basajja balaba mutemanyi basajja balaba we operate basajja balaba yagende Dodoma n'ateeka university aba health workers who are needed not only in Tanzania but everywhere. Baali baagala omwavu wa Zawan, former president of Tanzania Ali Hassan Mwinyi yabagamba you sent me this man. He's a key player in Tanzanian economy era naye mwagala musuula economy yaffe egwe. Tolaba gondi Ali Hassan Mwinyi ngajja ku university ya basajja balaba. Do you know these things? Live with them to us. Ababikulibwa fe tuli baawule alabe yawamagezi agenjawulo fe tuli baawule.
What I know Ham, I talk to Ham agamba oli kitaawe agamba nti oyo taata takwita ngona linnya nti taata
obwabwino bwagamba mbu tuli bankima bukima.
Yes. You are deeper. Kitwala.
Yes. We are closely related. Tata we muganda wange.
Yes.
Naye omwana mumwe
banakamba kusuubira.
Obanga ye muganda asigaddewo. Abaganda bonna bagudde. Omwana muto era naye mumusuule. Do you know the companies he has? No.
Ngati mwana wange kabaka tamanyirwa mengo temanyirwa.
Kabaka tamanyirwa akwane mukazi wo. Mwe mukazi wo komanyoko. Tabidda mwana mukamaka kabaka tamanyirwa. Kabaka tamanyirwa ekiki. Kabaka muwe mukazi wo oba tamanyirwa. Agenda kulabinga bintu by'abantu. Tukidde nyinza kukuba oluyiwano. Kabaka amanyirwa. Muteesa bamuwabira mu court several times. Yabba mukamulira ne bamuwabira. Tumutubulye bya busirusiru ebyo. Kabaka tata abaganda baganda nti lubale tata nga tasewo. Let him grab your property. Ne kabaka tajja kubba bintu by'abantu. Tajja kubibba. That will spark of a revolution. Let me summarize.
ekizibu kyo Tamale Mirundi ng'omaliza hamu njagala oyige kino nange nkikola omuntu ne bw'oba omwagala nnyo gwe bw'oba oyagala omuntu ofiirawo tomanyi nsobize hamu ayinza okukola ensobi wadde mutabani wo
nze kitange yaŋŋamba ffe kitaffe Yohana Mirundi yatugambanga nti abaana bange mubawe balye kubanga be balina okuzimba emisiwa. After the Second World War, the British government decided to reserve eggs for the younger people. It would have been the Kabaka to recognize Baganda who have contributed to both Buganda and the economy. Nti omwana oyo nze namubuulira ne mugamba nti ogenzeeyo emmengo mugundi mu bya Nnaabagereka bajja kukufera. Yabazimbira ekizimbe ekyo tebakyayi asante yapondo anti balowooza mbu obeeguya nnyo nze sibeeguyaamu nakamu. Oyo gundi Lukwago yagamba mu Mirundi tumugobe mu kika ky'enkima n'eddira y'e Congo nga nkola ekyembizi ate muba munyambye nnyo kuba n'abawala ab'enkima ntandika obbabiriga yes mukigobe mumulabe nze nagamba mawulisi afumbirwa Mirundi ow'enkima ebyewange tembireetayo yira okuba emiggo bwetugumugobe mu kika ky'enkima n'eddira y'e Congo nga n'eddira ekika ky'embizi n'amanya weegali nagatulaininga dda Kagodo Matu Zamulidde gonna ngalina ntambuza ddembe amanya gonna nagatuuma dda ate nga nze mukulu w'ekika tali takasiya wange ebyo bya busiru bwetugoba mu kika ky'enkima. Did I talk to my mother? Am I the one who convinced my mother to marry Mirundi enkima man? Do you control the enkima? Bulingi iti n'eddira y'e Congo n'eddira Nkyende nze n'eddira Nkyende waliyo ekibuga eggana bakiyita Tamale mugema yakifuga tonde busirisiru busirisiru bwe mubbiramu abantu. Omukulu w'ekika tayogera waffe mukulu w'ekika yajja ewaffe n'abunyabunya mukulu wange nkola kyambizi nkola ekyembizi Kagodo Matu Zamulidde mutambuza ddembe gonna amanya nagakola dda ng'ate nze mukulu w'ekika
bugere
ekika ky'embizi amanya gaakyo weegali ate abasiraamu bakiyingira okukamala. Nkola kyambizi nze temusobola kubineereegamu ebyo n'abawala ab'enkima naye mbabirika ate be mbadde nspeyalinga ejogo ne ndibamalamu you cannot blackmail me about culture no a person who can blackmail me is a doctor akati gwe tolaba tolaba engatto yange tolaba ekigere kyange kuloti yakomyewo nafuna miliyoni 7 ne bagikuba neesaasaana yazzemu kati ngenda kongo bakisale yakomyewo ne mama wange gundi
omanyika kiro kyayinza okubanga eva ku ebyo nyiri byogera mbizi n'omwenge
kuloti ejja naye ne mmange yagaana okutambula naye yange tetambula. Is not moving. Ekitegeeza kiva mu buladi yaffe kuloti ya mama baba abemmeera yagaana okutambula
towona birwadde
anti kizeemu ekigere kyekimu bandyako miliyoni 7 nti sajale neŋŋaana naye kati ngenda Kongo nze sirwalira
wano nti Mirundi leka omwenge gwokya ekibumba
ate ekibumba kikwata kigere bulira ono abasajja bedda abanaku bagendanga n'abakazi mu bitooke ne bagamba enzikiza ekutte nnyo nadde nkyanga bulaba enzikiza ekwata etya how does enzikiza affect abaganda bagamba nti omunafu yekwasa muyini mbu omuyini gw'enkumbi kati ekibumba kikwatirawo ekigere. Nze ndi mulamu nnyo bankebera abaana bange bankebera nakiririki ewange omwenge gwonoona abaavu be boononeka omwenge bagunywa nkuba ejja baavu. Beer is the danger to poor people, but rich man like me, I have all the tribes of beer in my house. I drink it regularly, many regulation. Omburi ebyo obusiru. Wala be konga ntomedde kisenge. First one yogera be konti face damage. Jikebereko. Bine bitabo mbiwandika.
Wenda biranga bikusobedde.
Bitabo mbiwandika byonna.
Wenda biranga bikusobedde we wano. Luli wajja n'enkofiira nga ya muhoze yose na ya Museveni.
Bonna bange.
Siri da government ya Museveni. Siri jidda. Siri mukolera.
Bonna bange.
Ndaga abantu bajja Mirundi tojikweka. Eno yandi.
Bonna bange.
Ono Museveni.
Muhozi ne Museveni bonna bange.
Wama wetegereze. N'enkofiira. Eyo ya Museveni. naye ososeka
atengera kuddira mu yamugozi ate next time
kati eno wagitaddeku nga totegedde wazze totegedde
bwe tokimanyi ewaffe waaliyo essajja nga gezi baaligamba nti muwalawo ayonoonye obufumbo bwa sengaawe nti omusajja amufunyisiza olubuto kyabagamba kati nfiiriddwaki wulira abadongo kati tekyali muko kati nze mukozi ne bwakwata
kubanga oli mwannyoko ono muwalawo so yafunyisiza sengaawe obuko bweyongedde
omanyi mu bya ssente kati mukozi ye baaba omanyi abaavu ogwe ne bwobanga gwe mukulu mukyo mutamanyi omwavu yaba omuto kati ze baaba muwagira kati ye baaba kati
muhozi baaba
ati yalina ssente omugagga yaba baaba nedadi muwagira
sali musale yamala obudde otuula naawe yagambye ogambye omuwagira yagambye muve ku bya Museveni ne muhozi olemedde ku generator
nabagambye mukambabuulire mbakubye ne mbajja mu kwonoona abantu let me tell you mwayonoona Kadaga yaleeta ba MPs 14,500 international parliamentary group singa Kadaga ali ku headquarters
eza
international parliamentary group teyali badde wano from speaker to what toyinza kuddira omuntu abadde speaker akulya one of the pillars of the state n'omufuula ebyo lwakuba bo bali diplomatic nyai go home kakati ne tumufiirwa kazibwe bamutwala asome PhD sente ne bazibba kazibwe bamujja ku African Union kazibwe katiza na advisor ministry ya health obwana bumujereka why mwabawe ebifonga bato kakati kazibwe naye yali badde mu World Health Organization lwaki yebya nyima yekka yaliyo netusanga Bukenya ayina PhD COVID akolebwako ba health workers Bukenya yakulirako department ya medical e Makerere nti akishinga abakazi ne bamuonoona mbabaze diplomat a senior diplomat Museveni gwe yaganti presidential material is rotting here what does he do mbabaze ulibya na envoy kukwata ulira kukwata nasali bali yali afunye omulimu mu UNESCO obukazi owamu gwe bayita muli agonja namukwata n'abantu abo namuvuna nokuba 35 million bali ne babajjako because the target was nasali bwe mala okuba sente bomala okukomba mbona katoto sente ne bazigenze nasali aliwo would be in UNESCO I cannot allow you to okono na maliza
zesa
ne hamunja kufanayi ndikabaka tabba kidde bukubolo yi obaka tabba kidde monti kabaka tabba kubere wanulu yi ani Abraham Buganda Land Board yani kabaka na mutabani
kabaka chiso